Welcome to the Just-in-Time Learning Series brought to you by the Instructional Services team at University College of the North. In this section, we will be featuring D2L Basics for Instructors.
I'm going to give a step-by-step demonstration of setting up a simple gradebook that will walk you through some of the features that are available inside your gradebook. So once you've logged into your D2L account, select the course in which you want to set your gradebook. Once it's open, you will find this option on the navigation bar under the Assessments tab in the section titled Grades. We click that open if this is the first time that you've entered into this section, or if you haven't set up a gradebook, you will have a Setup Wizard page. On this first summary page, this shows you the default settings that are already active in your D2L grades shell. Oftentimes, instructors will want to make custom changes to reflect the grading requirements inside their course. So we'll click Start to initiate this process. It'll be a 7-step process, and the first is choosing your grading system. You can select either weighted or points, and in this example we're going to be using weighted. It will allow us to give each item a point value that will be converted into a category percent. Okay, when in doubt, you can click on the gray circle with a question mark and it will provide you with additional information. I'm going to click Continue. Step 2 is your final grade released, either as a calculated final grade or an adjusted final grade. Now this is important. Calculated grades allow the instructor a little flexibility to change the formula without changing the setup in the gradebook. If you click the adjusted final grade, it allows you to modify individual user grades without affecting the setup in the gradebook. In step 3, it's the grade calculations. This is strictly an instructor's preference. Either drop an ungraded item or treat an ungraded item as 0. You can see that if we click on the drop ungraded item, that items that do not have a grade inputted are not counted in the final grade. This may give us students the appearance of having a higher grade point average in the course than they actually do. Whereas treating an ungraded item as 0 will provide a lower overall grade point average until more of the assignments come in and are completed. Most instructors like to choose the treat ungraded item as 0. The final option down here is your automatic update. If you tick this box off, every time you add grades to your gradebook, it will automatically calculate and keep those overall totals updated for you. Otherwise, after you input, you will have to push this function manually inside your gradebook. To step 4, and this is choosing your default grade scheme. You have 2 options here, percentages or letter grades. Percentages are your default option based on the system that you checked off earlier, and if you want to incorporate the grade scale associated with your course outline, you will have to manually input it here. Most instructors prefer to go with the percentage display, and then students can easily convert that by looking at the grade scale that's been provided in the course outline. Okay, step 5 is managing your display options. This setting controls how many decimals will be displayed to users. You must use an integer between 0 and 5. We've set a default setting of 2. You can change that. And in step 6, this is an important screen because it determines how students will see their grades displayed. So I have 2 boxes checked off now. Points grade and weighted grade, because I will be assigning a point system to individual assignments. That categories will have a weighted grade. So this is going to show students both what they've gotten on each assignment and what they're worth in that category. Now if you've inserted a grade scheme at this point, you can check to add your grade symbol here. You can even color code your grade scheme at this point. It's going to display 2 decimal places, and characters displayed refers to the text items. Anything over 15 text characters will be truncated, and that's just to keep your grade book clean, tidy, and readable. You can increase it, I believe, up to 50 characters, so between 0 and 50 characters. The final box is really important. So this is your final grade calculation. You can set up your grade book, you can have your categories, your weights, and your assignments all input, and students will be able to see the categories and the items. But unless you check off the final box here, display final grade calculation to users, they won't see any of the marks that you have entered into the system under their names. So if you want students to see their grades as they've been completed on their assignments, make sure that you check off this box here. We'll go to the final step here, and this is much like the first screen. It's a summary of the settings that you've chosen for this particular gradebook. If you're happy with those settings, click Finish. This completes part 1 of a 2-part series. So now that you have your grade system set up, you want to set up your categories and your items. So those things that are going to determine the overall grade for the course. Based on a sample gradebook scheme that I've come up with, I'm going to have 3 category titles, and I'm going to have a number of assignments under, or grade items under, each one of those categories. So I have my sheet in front of me that has my grading scheme all set up. So I've decided I have 3 categories. Attendance and participation is 1, assignments is 2, and exams is 3. So I'm going to type in my categories, and I have these pre-typed in, so they're just jumping up for me. I can shorten that title in the gradebook if I'd like. This is a section where I can add reminders for me on how I'm calculating this grade, especially if I'm teaching a number of courses. I may need a reminder. So I have 13 classes scheduled. I'm going to assign a point value of 5 points per class. That's going to give me a total of 65 points, maximum 65 points available, and I'm going to make attendance, since this is a hands-on course, worth 50% of the grade, because I really want them to be attending each one of the classes. And now for participation, I've arranged for 6 group or class discussions, and I'm going to assign them a point value of 10 points per discussion, which is going to give me a total of 60 points available for this particular item. And I want that to factor in for 50% of my final category weight here. And you have an option below the box. You see it says allows user to view the description. This will embed this information directly into the gradebook, and if you have a lot of description notes here, it can make your gradebook, the entry field, look quite large. I'll leave this in so that you can see how that displays, how that looks for users, and this is the only section that I'm going to do that for. So I'm going to come down here. The overall weight of this category, attendance and participation, is going to be worth 10% of their final grade. So I could make it 50 if I wanted, I could make it 100, but at this point I'm going to make it worth 10% of their overall grade. I'm going to manually assign the weight to the items in the category, because I may have a student that attends 6 courses, so I don't want to distribute it equally across each one of the categories. I want to be able to enter my own customized marks into these sections, so I'm just going to leave that as manually assigned. And finally, display options. A word of caution here. Unless you have large classes, and by large I mean 30 or more users per class, I would likely stay away from the display class average to users and the display grade distribution to users, simply because statistically speaking, students would be able to figure out who got what mark in the class. And just for in terms of confidentiality this isn't an option that I would activate unless you have a very large class. So at this point I have created that category. I'm going to finish creating all my categories out here. So now I'm going to go on to my assignments. And my assignments, I'm going to have 3. A1 is going to be it's going to be worth 25 points, and it's going to be equal to 25% of this category mark, and this is going to be an outline of a major paper presentation they have to do. Assignment 2 is going to be basically the same, 25 points. It's going to be worth 25% of the overall grade, and this one is going to be their draft. They're going to have to submit a draft to me for review and approval. And finally, assignment 3 is going to be worth 50 points. I could make it 100. The points really are variables that aren't going to impact the final grade too much, and I'm going to make this worth 50% of this category here. And this will be the final paper and presentation. I'm going to have to do a class presentation. So I've got those notes written down for me, so I know how the grade was calculated. If I wanted students to have access to this as well, I could click off this box again, but it does make your grade book larger. Okay, so for this category, I want their assignments to count for 50% of their overall mark in this course. And I'm going to manually assign the weights to each one of those items that we've just identified. I'm not going to display average or distribution to users. Save and new. And the final area is going to be for exams. I'm going to have 2 exams in here. I'm going to have a midterm, and it's going to consist of a 100-question exam, and this is going to be low stakes. It's going to be worth 30% of their exam mark, and then for their final exam, it's going to be 250 questions, and it's going to make up 70% of this category grade. So the final exam for exams is really the high stakes exam here. Again, our description view, and if our attendance and participation was worth 10, our assignments was worth 50, we have 40% left in our grade book to assign. So for exams, they're going to be worth 40% of a student's overall grade. I'm going to manually assign those items. I'm going to save and close. And you can see now that we have attendance, participation, assignments, and exams, all as categories created inside our grade book, and their weight totals 100, so this looks good. However, we have a note at the top of the scale telling us that our sums do not equal 100%. And that's because we haven't added any items in these sections yet. So now that we've created categories, we need to place items that are actually graded inside each of these categories. So I'm going to click on the new box. I'm going to select item. You have a number of options that you can select from here, but since I'm working on a point and percent system, I'm going to click numeric, and I'm going to type in attendance as one of my items. I now need, you have a new box here and it's called category. I need to assign this item to a section. So it's going under attendance and participation, telling me that's worth 10% of the overall grade. And I'm going to put back in here again that there are 13 classes worth 5 points each. And that's going to be 65 points total, and it's going to make up 50%. So let's go in. So we have a maximum of 65, and a weight, since it's going to account for half of this category grade, it needs to be 50% here. I'm not going to allow it to exceed 50% or 100%, and I'm not going to assign any bonus. Okay, I'm going to keep the percent scheme, so I'm going to click Save and New. Now I'm going to add another item. It is participation. You need to add it to your category, which is attendance and participation. We had said that there was a maximum of 60 points here. There were going to be 6 discussions at 10 points each, and the weight is 50%. So the weight is divided equally between attendance and participation. So I'm now going to click Save and Close. There we go. So you can see that this item is worth 60, this item is worth 65 points, but the total is what matters here. The weight is distributed equally, so each of these items is worth 50% of this overall 10%. So I'm going to finish adding items under assignments and exams. They're going to continue to be numeric. In my case, I've got assignment 1. We need to add him to his category, which is assignments. This one was going to be worth 25 marks, and it was also going to be worth 25% of the overall grade. Save and New. Go back in, numeric. We're now doing assignment 2. Add it to its category of assignments. It is worth 25 points and 25% of the overall category grade. Save and New, and I had one more assignment, and that's assignment 3. Adding it to its assignment category. Now down here, this one was going to be worth 100 points, maximum points, and its overall weight was going to be 50% of the assignment category. So when we close and save, we can see that those 2 error messages at the top of the grades box have disappeared. We're now left with just one box, one error outstanding, and that's under exams because we haven't added any items yet. There's 0% showing. So we're going to finish this up by adding our exams. Again, numeric, doing a midterm. It was going to be worth 100 points, and its weight was going to be 30% of this overall category. One more item will be the final exam. Add it to its category. It was going to have 250 points maximum, and it was going to be worth 70% of this overall category. So let's have a look here and see what we've got now. Okay. We have an error, and if we look here, we can see that our midterm is out of place. We need to go back in and edit him. And I'm sure we forgot to place him under his appropriate category, so he's just out there free floating as an item. So if we assign him to his category, save and close, that clears up any error messages that we have with our math and our gradebook. So if you look at each of the category columns, which are the blue columns, and you add up the values in these columns, 10, 50, and 40 equal 100. Under each one of these categories, the items add up to 100 as well. 50 and 50, 100, 25, 25, 50 equal 100, and 70 and 30 equal 100. So our gradebook balances out, and our maximum points are simply variables that we can increase or decrease without impacting the correct weight. Let's have a look at the student view and see how this is going to display for a student. So you can see here that we've got attendance and participation. It has the point value systems assigned for them and will display what their maximum grade in this area has been, the overall weight, and how each item is weighted in the category. So this is a good place for students to stay current on where they are in their courses. So I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you have questions about setting up your gradebook, if it's not working, or you have a more complicated system that you'd like to implement into your D2L shells, please don't hesitate to give our department a call. Thank you.